What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Oh yeah. Today's video has to do with the Fresno Bulldogs. Shout out to Fresno. The question is, would the Bulldogs ever be able to get back in line, so to speak? And it's a question somebody asked me. And my short answer, based on my life experiences, this is what I talk about, right? Based on my life experiences, my knowledge of the ins and outs inside California prisons, I believe the answer is no. The short answer is no. And it's going to be for various reasons, right? And we'll touch on some of them. You guys know I don't ever write anything down. I just shoot from the hip. And like I said, from my life experiences. Now, a lot of people know about the agreement that was reached that called for the end of hostilities. And it's important to point out that during the negotiations for the end of hostilities, Fresno was never involved in the talks. And the reason why I say that and I believe that is because the short corridor of Pelican Bay State Prison's SHU, short corridor on D facility, is where all of the members of the Big Four were housed. And they discussed this whole thing, came to an agreement, and Fresno was not represented there. I don't know. They are not part of the Big Four and therefore wouldn't be in D1 through 4, which is a short corridor, right? So during those discussions, it's my belief that they were. How could they be involved, right? So they were not a topic of discussion as far as end of hostilities. Now, I would also like to point out that, we know that after the hunger strikes and everything, a lot of changes took place in the California Department of Corrections. All of the legends of the Big Four, all of them were let back out to the main lines like they had been, in the 60s and 70s and part of the 80s. But it's important to note that this actually could have taken place prior to 2003, 2005. It actually could have taken place. And what had happened was there was the big riot in Pelican Bay. Those of you that's seen it on YouTube, And after the big riot, it put a lot of fear in the Department of Corrections because that prison is, I believe, still the only prison in the California Department of Corrections where every inch of the yard is on video before they release the yard. And so as soon as that riot happened, you had all of the news networks bombarding. We want the tape. We want the footage. We want the footage. We want the footage. And the CDC, I think, was spooked because it showed that the authorities do not run the prisons. The convicts decided what was going to happen that day, decided when the riot was going to stop. And it was actual proof of how violent it is in there and how they're lucky to just come in and get their job done with nothing happening, for reals, right? So after that riot happened, there were discussions. They were letting legends out from different factions to come to an agreement, possibly being released from the SHU at that time. During that time, there was one organization, I don't say the names of these organizations. There was one organization that said, no, we're not going to participate in these discussions. And because of that, years and years and years and years and years and years and years went by where they were slammed down and living in those same conditions. Then again, coming back to the future, after the hunger strikes, lawsuit, a bunch of other stuff, they let everybody out. Now, back to Fresno. There are several issues when it comes to discussing. First of all, I don't think Fresno at this time, this point now, I don't think they want to be back in line, because if they get back in line, they got to fall under something. There's only a big four. There's not a big five. I know some people used to say there's a big five. There was never a big five. It was a big four. And Fresno is not going to be recognized as number five, right? So they would have to fall in line. They do not want to fall in line under anybody. So there's that. Fresno has no leadership to speak of. You cannot go to an individual or a group of individuals and get them to get every one of their homies in line. They function in a different way. And so how do you even have that discussion, right? I will say this. I remember when I was in the California Youth Authority, there was 3 groups as far as the Southerners that were like, hey, you run into them Northerners, these are the ones you look out for. The first 2, not in any particular order, was San Jose and Fresno. The third one I would hear was Stockton. So those 3, but the main 2, it was always a-holes. Them fools from up north, if you run into a vato from San Jose or Fresno, get off ASAP. Is there going to be? And that was in YA, right? So they were under a certain organization. They ran with the North back then. This is before they broke off, and they were known to be rowdy, you know, to want to get off, and so you would get off on them. When they chose to break off and do their own thing, their numbers drastically dropped as far as they were not a part of a bigger thing anymore. It was just them. Why would anybody feel like, I'm just thinking out loud, why would anybody feel like it's worth sitting down and discussing having them fall under anything? I think, you know, when you know they were with one group and turn their back on that group, and then were cozy with another group when they got out, and then turned on them as well. So why would those 2 groups say, you know what, let's think about, let's entertain the idea of letting them come back? It doesn't work like that. Again, who would they speak to even entertain the idea? And for either group, there's no, what would they get out of it? What would be the plus for them? I don't see it. And then you have had for a long time, since 1998 to be exact, you've had it where the vatos from Fresno pretty much, starting in 1998, they pretty much went to, 2 or 3 yards in the whole entire state. Everyone else went to every prison. But Fresno went to 1 or 2 places. That's, you know, and I think that for them, you know, it helped them, because it was like, okay, in the grand scheme of things, they're not a huge force. There's not a lot of them. But when you condense them and you concentrate them in 2 areas, 3 areas in the state, then it's a fair fight. For the most part, it's a fair fight. But it seems like the CDC has decided that the Vatos from Fresno are going to be possibly the sacrificial lamb. See, the CDC does not want the legends out there on the main line. Everybody knows that. And so now if they send 5 or 6 dudes from Fresno to any other yard, it's going to jump. This is unfortunate, but it's chess. The CDC has decided which group was not involved in the end of hostilities. Let's utilize that group to slam everybody else back down. They don't care who loses their lives in the process, be it convict on convict or staff taking out convicts on the yard. They don't care. The end goal is put them all back in Pelican Bay. Maybe even build another prison. They love building prisons. They haven't done it in a while, but I wouldn't be surprised if they build another one that's even more harsh than Pelican Bay out of spite. To say, yeah, you won that lawsuit, but we played you. So I won't be surprised, and it's gonna take a while. But for those reasons, I don't see ever a time where any group would say, okay, let's talk to these guys from Fresno. They would have to internally start building up a leadership. Some kind of way where other factions, other organizations within the California Department of Corrections would feel like, hey, we could talk to them. They would have to develop a leadership and then show that they're willing to hurt their own to make things right. That's what the other groups are doing. Then hostilities didn't mean there wasn't going to be violence. Then hostility meant there weren't going to be riots. That there would be discussions amongst the groups. If a Southerner disrespected a black or a black disrespected a white or whatever groups, there would be people that can discuss it, figure it out. And if the group that feels that their person, their people were out of line, it will get dealt with. There will always be, in the California Department of Corrections, there will always be in-house hits. Some lead to death, some don't, but there will always, that will never change. And hostilities never, ever means you don't discipline your own. But that's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, share it with someone who you think would like it. Leave a comment and hit the like. I appreciate you guys. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them. I'm out.